Hello everybody, welcome to What Culture Gaming. Just the news is happening.
Jesus, we're so ready for news. I wasn't ready.
Well, we've got cards and everything.
My God.
First off, I am Scott, and you are...
I'm Ben from What Culture.
Yes.
Welcome. We're here to talk about Mass Effect Andromeda.
We are, or potentially the very last Mass Effect game we'll ever see.
Oh.
I don't know.
Doesn't sound good. Obviously, we reviewed Mass Effect recently, didn't we?
Yes, I gave it 3.5 stars.
So that's...
I thought it was alright.
7? Yeah.
I get, this is obviously isn't going to be a review discussion. I just think that game was better than, absolute crap. It wasn't total
It was
alright. It was alright.
It had flaws, although EA seems to have been maybe taking it to heart, potentially.
So this is just following on from a report that went up on Kotaku, which we'll include the link in the description, saying that pretty much the Mass Effect franchise is on ice because of the reception and the general, cultural response to Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah.
Which you can't really say we didn't see coming. That game has been just beaten to hell since launch.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and if you're EA's people and you're cooking the books, then you're going to look at that and just go, well, maybe we never should have done Mass Effect in the first place, and maybe we're never going to do another one.
Was it BioWare Montreal? Was that their
Yes.
studio? Right, so supposedly, or not supposedly confirmed, a load of stuff have been moved.
Yeah, they have. That was, part of the report details that EA have already started reallocating different people, and apparently from now on, BioWare Montreal are only going to be supporting the multiplayer aspect of Andromeda.
Right.
Even though there's a new patch that just came out, which details some fixes for the single player, the way that the Kotaku thing's worded implies that they're only going to continue supporting multiplayer.
Right.
Which again is another thing that makes me think that they're just wringing their hands of everything to do with Andromeda, other than the parts of it that are continuing to make them money.
Yes.
Cause microtransactions.
Most of them are going to be going to work on Star Wars Battlefront 2, is that right?
Yeah, or just be reallocated to other projects.
Yes.
Because they call BioWare Montreal a support studio. Which is what they were.
They were founded as a support studio, weren't they? But it's a bit of a...
It sucks for them. I mean,
this was their moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is, all those people work, and the statement from EA obviously clarifies that these people did work their asses off, and that shouldn't ever be discounted. These people work ridiculously long hours, and they put a hell of a lot of time in to make these games, and if they don't go very well, then you can start analysing that thing. But regardless of that, their whole studio has been kind of segmented up, and they've gone from being a DLC studio to the multiplayer component of Mass Effect 3 to helming all of Andromeda to now being scattered again. But the main point is, where the hell does Mass Effect go from here? Do you see it making a comeback? I mean, now we've had the end of Mass Effect 3, all that shenanigans, and then we've got a whole other game being broken.
It's such a big blow for the franchise. Even not just the studio being all of this stuff is sort of par for the course at this point, given what happened to Mass Effect Andromeda. But just the negative, it's almost like, and I know this is sort of a generalization, and it may not be a strict comparison or a fair comparison, but sort of what happened to Microsoft with Xbox One after their whole TV thing. PS4 was so far ahead that Microsoft have almost doubled down on the Scorpio and said, well, fine, Xbox One, it's there if you want it, but really this is what you want. This is the thing. It's almost like it's just been killed dead, isn't it?
For the Xbox, it's weird because obviously something like the Kinect and the whole TV focused marketing, all that's completely gone away. But they've still been supporting the Xbox. You've still had a few exclusives, nowhere near as many as the PS4. But I think that's mainly because they're rerouting power, makes me think of Iron Man, towards Scorpio.
Yes.
And that'll be the big thing.
But how could they do that with Mass Effect, though?
Well, that's the thing.
Is the interest there anymore? A long-time fan... I mean, you're a big fan of Mass Effect. I am too. I haven't played Andromeda. I want to play it. But would you want to go back into the universe? Well,
that's going to be the thing, because what BioWare Edmonton did, obviously with that original trilogy, I don't know, Mass Effect is, for me, pretty much the greatest sci-fi franchise of all time. I love Star Wars, I love all that stuff, I absolutely love Star Wars, but my point is, the depth that Mass Effect has, Star Wars doesn't have, obviously, Wrath of the Fanboys and all that, but Mass Effect, it has a hell of a lot of plot threads and different strands that you can pull at to do different stories, which have already been fleshed out in the novels and that kind of thing. So I think that the franchise itself is interesting enough, and the term Mass Effect does carry weight, which is why I think in this statement from EA, they've said, look, we're not, Andrew House, the dude from CEO from EA, was like, we still see a happy future for Mass Effect, but at the same time, we're putting it on ice, and we'll get back to that at some point. Which financial realities of that just means that if Mass Effect doesn't continue to be something that people talk about, it will just go away. And I can't think who the interview was with, but there was an interview with someone from inside BioWare. It might have been through Jim Sterling or someone who talked to one of the team members.
Right.
And they said towards the end of development, they were literally told, don't worry about the facial animations, don't worry about the storytelling aspect, focus on the multiplayer, focus on the action. And it's I mean, you can feel that in the game. That's definitely what they prioritized.
I mean, those are definitely light years ahead of the last games, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't say light years.
Well, yeah, but they're good. They're good.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, like, I loved combat in 2 and 3, but I think, yeah, Andromeda's combat is probably the most seamless it's been.
It's very fluid.
Very fluid, really good. Like, you can, you mix air, ground, and all that kind of thing. But all of that goes towards the idea that Andromeda was only ever greenlighted as a cash grab, because they gave it to their support studio, or the team that were the support studio beforehand. Yeah. It's a popular franchise. It's like, hey, just do one of them. Just get it out, just do it. And, depending on how much you hate Andromeda, you're going to jump on that and be like, well, yeah, you can tell. Like, I liked what Andromeda was overall, and I can look to parts of it and go, okay, I think that worked well. Yeah. And I think X, Y, Z was intentional. But if the reality of that was just that a game was just kicked out the door to make money, I can totally see that too. Like, you can feel it.
It's very easy to jump on that, because if that is the case, then they've been told to do that. But obviously there is a studio there of people, hardworking people, that really wanted to make the best game possible. Yes. And unfortunately, that's what publishers do. Yeah. They push you in a direction that they think will make the most money. But ultimately, what they've done here is almost self-destruct the entire franchise.
And plus, and just to be completely clear from my point of view, I'm not saying that those people weren't incredibly hard working. I just meant that, like, the impetus behind even starting another project maybe didn't come from the most necessary of places. It's not like someone looked at the trilogy and went, we can definitely do another one of them, considering the fallout from Mass Effect 3. Right. Like, for me, to resurrect the franchise now, you need the most, like, dedicated, die-hard team, Sonic Mania style. Right. Like, people who know what to do with that. Would
they be able to do you reckon there'd be any tempting former BioWare employees that made Mass Effect what it was back? Because obviously there was an exodus, of the original team.
It depends how violent that was behind the scenes. I mean, it's rare that, like, the public or us get to know how those things went down, but post-Mass Effect 3, guys like Casey Hudson and, like, Drew Kopshin eventually did come back. Whatever. Many of those team members did leave in the wake of Mass Effect 3, which, if you believe the way that people talk about that from behind the scenes, that game was chopped and changed around for publisher demands as well, and the whole end of that game was rewritten. So it's like, I mean, I don't think the original team will come back. I think it'll need something like a Sonic Mania or I don't know, some new blood, someone to look at it from a fan, maybe even a fan perspective, and just do what they're doing with Star Wars. Get a new team in.
I've got 2 scenarios I think that could potentially sort of apply some kind of healing salve to fans who are upset.
Omnigel, you might say.
Yeah, exactly. The first one is, I think, if they were going to go at it again and give Mass Effect another go, it would need to be what I think a lot of people hoped Andromeda would be, in that it's in a completely different place, has a completely different set of aliens. You could maybe play as an alien, and it would be about perhaps first contact with the familiar aliens or even familiar characters from other games. Alternatively, another studio steps up from another publisher and makes a massive RPG space epic.
MRPG.
On the scale of BioWare's Mass Effect.
Maybe. I mean, I think...
But no one's really trying that.
No, there was overall, I mean, like, I've written about this a lot on the site, there's a lot of, like, there was such a lack of, like, passion and necessity. Like, again, not from within the studio. Whenever they were talking at panels and different pre-release things, you felt that they cared. But from the marketing, I mean, the first time we ever saw Mass Effect Andromeda was at that PlayStation Experience thing. And it was a little 5-minute demo to show off their 4K PS4 Pros. Right. It didn't scream, this thing's necessary, we get it, we're totally fixing everything. Oh, come back, even though, whatever. Like, they just didn't hit the ground running, they kind of just hit the ground, and then it got to launch.
The jetpacks weren't working.
Yeah, exactly. It got to launch, and yeah, exactly. Who writes that? I mean, that's a different qualm, but like, yeah. But my point is, there wasn't a feeling of necessity that came out of it, which is exactly what you need when you've categorically got one of the worst video game endings of all time. Like, EA were voted worst business in the worst company in the world.
They've had that a few times.
Off the back of Business Insider or whatever it was, or Consumerist Magazine, because of the end of Mass Effect 3, because of the sheer vitriol that people felt. Yeah. So, to bend that back around and go, right, we're going to do it again, we're going to try Mass Effect again, and not give it your all on EA's part and the devs, and I think the devs totally did, it's only ever going to crash and burn. So yeah, if they're going to continue it, they really need to nail the marketing side of it, which, when it's EA, I can't think of a single EA product recently that's had a really strong fan following. So,
apart from maybe Battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like those big sort of, I guess, I mean, in terms of like a franchise, like in terms of, I love that character, I love that world, I love that.
Right, so like a narrative.
People that'll stick there regardless of the games, because the Reddit for Mass Effect Andromeda is still very strong. Right. People still like that franchise and like that world and are looking for things that are good. I'm one of them, so I'm still trying to have a look around, but I don't know, man.
We're not going to hear about it for a while either way.
Doesn't look like
it. Make sure you let us know what you think of Mass Effect Andromeda in the comments, and like and share this video if you'd like. Whoop. Be wonderful. I've been Ben from What Culture.
I've been Scott from What Culture.
And thanks for watching.
Bye.